Okay, good afternoon and welcome to Mishna Yomi. Today we'll be learning Maseches Terumos Perek Dalid, Mishnayos Gimel and Dalid. Gimel says Shir Truma Ayin Yafa Achas Marboim. Right? There's different recommendations Chazal had for giving Truma. There's no specification, right? Because it says V'nechshad lachem Trumaschem. It's done ma'umud. There's no exact thing. Meiser is exactly 1/10. You're supposed to measure 1/10. Truma is an estimation. So if you're a generous guy, you give 1/40th to the Kohen. Beis Shammai omrim mishloshim. They say you want a generous Beis Shammai, you give 1/30. That's pretty nice. Beinonis mechamishim. If you're an average person, you're not generous, you're not stingy, you give 1/50th. Hara mishishim. If you're a stingy person, you can rely, I guess, and give 1/60th to the Kohen. Tarim ba'ala biyado echa mishishim. Like we said, you're supposed to do it in mu'umad. You're supposed to do it in estimation. So you took off a certain amount. It ended up being 1/60th. Truma eno sarich litrum, so it's considered truma. Even technically, he intended to do more, right? Because he's a type of guy that likes to be generous, or at least be a benoni. He doesn't. He was yotze his mitzvah of truma, and chazer v'hosev chayev v'maishas. If he would go again and try to take off another tenth, right? Not another tenth, another 100th. Whatever, he wants to make it 1/50th. It was 1/60th. I'm not sure of the math here. It was 1/60th. He wants to take up some more to make it 1/50th. It doesn't count anymore because you already took off 1/60th. So therefore, whatever you took off counts as truma, and the rest became chula now. It's not tevel anymore, and therefore, if you go and take off more and you want to designate as truma, it really you're still chayiv in maishros. Right, you can't assume that's truma and it's pater. Once truma is pater min ma'isros, so the Kohen doesn't give ma'isro and truma. No, it's chayiv in ma'isros because the rest of the pile you didn't take off ma'isros from, so that doesn't count as truma, and therefore you have to take off ma'isor from that. Allah biyado mishishim ve'echad truma v'yatzav yishram k'moshu lamud. If you, by estimation, you took off 1/61, so therefore it's not even stingy; it's less than stingy. Then you go ahead and you take off more. Mido and mishkal minyan. Then you can even use a precise measurement to make sure it's how much you want, 1/40th, 1/50th, or 1/60th, because the whole idea of nechshad lechem mishum maschem to do it ma'umad only talks about the first time you take off truma, and like we said, therefore if you took 1/60 first, when you take again, that actually counts as truma. It's not considered chulin already. Rabbi Yehuda Omer af shalom and amukaf. Rabbi Yehuda says the second time you take off truma, you can even do a shalom and amukaf. When amukaf is halacha by truma, then you have to take off truma from things that are near you in the same room and things like that. You can't take off from one, you're in the basement, take off on truma something in the attic or something like that. So he says the second time you take it off, right after the estimation, you don't have to do it in amukaf. We don't hold it Rabbi Yehuda. You still have to do it in amukaf from that second tithing. Dalad ha'omer l'shlucha seyu trom. So you make a shliach take off truma. Torim kedai shel baal habayis. You don't tell. He doesn't tell the shliach how much to take off. So the shliach, the emissary, he decides how much he thinks the baal habayis would take off, 1/40th, 1/50th, or 1/60th. The Mishnah is recommending, if he doesn't know how much he normally gives, give 1/50. Let's say he decides to give an extra tenth, or to give 1/40th, or to give 1/60th, right? He has 1,000 sewing, right? 1,000 measurements, right? So instead of giving off, I'm losing the math up here, right? Instead of doing 1/50th, he gave 1/40th or 1/60th. Truma, his truma is valid because these are all shiurim that people can give. He doesn't know exactly what the baal habayis is. In this kavan lahosev afilu achas ein truma. However, he knew what the baal habayis normally gives. The baal habayis normally gives 1/50th, and he decided to give extra, to give 1/40th, or he gave less than the baal habayis, 1/60th. He was stingy, so that ain't trumas to truma. He knows the das of the baal habayis. He can't act without. Then he's mavatal his shlichus. He has to be a shliach of the baal habayis. He has to do what the baal habayis would have wanted him to do. If he doesn't know, there's this dispensation that he can give a little less or a little more. We'll talk more in a Mishna about exactly the understanding of this Mishna. See you there. Bye.